Dakshinamurtयै Namaha.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Om Shanti Shanti.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.
Harihi Om Tat Sat.
Hari Om Tat.
Okay, so we had finished the sloka number, verse number 31st yesterday. And before that, we had discussed Yomang Pasyati Sarvatra Sarvang Cha Mai Pasyati Tasyaham Na Pranashyami Sacha Me Na Pranashyati. So this is a kind of a conditional promise Bhagavan is making to all of us. That the person who has learned to see me as no different from him at the level of deeper consciousness and sees my presence everywhere he visits, for him I shall never be an external object of perception, and he shall never be an external object of perception for me. Broadly, what's being hinted is that there are two stages or two modes of consciousness in all of us. There is a yoga dasa and there is a vyuthana dasa. Yoga dasa is when all of us are sitting in a deeply meditative mood, we are reading the text, or we are deeply meditating on the divine. There could be other moments when we are engaged in certain activities in the external world. It could be about cooking or taking a bath or interacting with some people. This is the dasa where you are dynamically involved with the so-called phenomenal world. It may be an illusory presence or appearance. Even then, you are interacting with this external reality. So what is saying, Yomang Pasyati Sarvatra, when you are interacting with, when can you see Sarvatra? When you are moving from place to place, talking to people and doing certain things, maybe in office, at home. So in those moments of Vyuthana Dasa, when you are active physically, you're not in a meditative state, you see the signature of the Lord everywhere. Because like the flower garland is held together by a thread, this whole reality, which appears to be diverse and multiple, is ultimately stitched together by that pure divine consciousness, which is the substratum of all of this. And then you go to the meditative state or the yoga dasa. Let's imagine you go to sleep or you get up in the morning and sit in meditation. Are you interacting with the external world? You are not. You're sitting in a deep meditative state. And in that state, what happens is that you see all of this whole sansara, which actually, so far sense perception is concerned, or perceptual connectivity is concerned, you are not seeing because you have closed your eyes. You have withdrawn your ears from the external noises, or maybe you're sitting in a room which is soundproof, or maybe in a cave or in a cottage, in a forest or somewhere. You don't connect naturally with the external reality. Everything is kind of, there's a silence around you and you are meditating. At that moment, you see this whole universe, which you are seeing when you are active, to be actually, merged and established in the divine. That whatever I have seen, I am right now meditating on the Brahman, but this is the substratum, the fundamental reality on which all other things have appeared as projections. So one time you are meditating on the source, the other time you are meditating or attending to the projections. Whenever you are attending to the projections through your senses, you see that divine unity, the unifying field, which connects all that appear to be divided, diverse, and multiple. And then when you return to the source, this diversity is not denied, except that you see this diversity is subsumed under and in that pure divine consciousness or that unifying field. It's like, imagine a scientist who is working on a black hole or working on the cosmos, some fundamental particles or some very, very sophisticated theory about reality. He's not denying Newton's laws of motion, but he is looking at a subtler, higher realm of the way this whole cosmos functions. And all these external laws of physics that he has studied, he knows that these are all subsumed in the higher reality that I am talking about. So these laws that everything has an equal and opposite reaction, or that the acceleration produced by any force is sort of, it's directly proportional to the acceleration directly proportional to the force applied, or inversely proportional to the mass, and all those things. He is not denying them. What he's saying is that I'm talking about a reality which is much more subtle and requires a different kind of attention. Okay, and if he is able to do that, never ever he sees the divine absolute as different from his own consciousness, nor the Lord or the divine consciousness treats him as separate from him. What is being hinted is that this truth is in fact the source of all protection. It's not a particular God with name and form, but in fact this fundamental truth is the reassurance that we are never alone. And that is the source of our confidence in the fact that our existence is not necessarily meaningless, and it's not limited, it's not restricted. These fears about its limited nature, its restricted nature, these are all emerging out of a limited understanding we have, or a fallacious understanding we have regarding what reality is. Having explained that, in the end, Madhusudana Saraswati says, Abhidvang tu swatmanapi santam bhagavantam na pasyati, because God is not different from us. That divine consciousness and our consciousness are just two facets of one unified, infinite reality. But the mudha, the fool, the idiot, or the ignorant is unable to realize this subtle truth, and therefore he cannot see himself, because actually God or the divine is no different from the individual in terms of a conscious reality. And therefore, the one who doesn't recognize God is actually foolish enough not to recognize himself. Because if you are part of that infinite universe, which means the infinite universe, that subtle reality is all around you, and you are part of that. You're just a certain name describing one tiny aspect of that infinite reality, and therefore, if you recognize yourself, you cannot but recognize that whole universal infinite reality, the most powerful reality that you name as God in a religious way. But fundamentally, you recognize yourself, you also recognize that. So that is the end of all atheism. You do not have to be necessarily an extremely theistic person to appreciate this subtle truth of Vedanta. This is extremely logical. And in order to make it easier, we are bringing in the divine grace and stuff like that, because the way we open up our consciousness to grasp this aspect of reality, the easier it becomes for our consciousness to fully understand in detail. That is the work of grace. Now, in the next sloka, he is now going to give what is the phala of this sort of, already he has mentioned that as a God, I'm not going to ditch him, and as a human being, he'll never forget me. So there is a mutual reassurance to heighten the motivation of the guy who is listening to these words of the Lord. The Lord now further says, what is the phalam? What is the benefit of a person understands that he is at one end of this unified consciousness? How does it benefit? This is explained in the sloka number 32nd. And similarly, we'll also go to the 33rd sloka. So broadly what he's saying, Sarva Bhuta Stitam Yomang Bhajatyekattvama Stitaha Sarvatha Vartamanopi Sa Yogi Mai Vartate. Because as any student, you go to a guru, or you go to an ashram, or you sit in a meditation, you feel blissful for a few minutes. And then what do you ask? If you're going to a teacher to learn a subject and you have an exam after a while, what will you ask that professor? Sir, you have given a lecture, I have taken the notes, I have done it, and you've checked my answer sheets, and you think I have done a very good job by writing this paper. Do you think I'm going to do well in the examination? Am I going to come out in flying colors? The teacher reassures, yes. If you keep this in mind, If you do exactly the way you did here, you are going to come out in flying colors. You're going to succeed. Similarly, Bhagavan is reassuring the one, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yo Mam, because I am Parameshwara, I am everywhere. This is explained in the earlier verse, the one who can see me as present everywhere. Now, Sarva Bhuta Sthitam Yo Mam, the one who can Sthitam Mam Yaha Pasyati Bhajati Ekatvam and sees me as just one unified reality. He and me are not different. The Bhakta and the Bhagavan are not two separate entities. They just unify consciousness because it's like the pot sky. The sky inside the pot is sky. But so far it's inside the pot, we call it the pot sky, or we call the ocean a bubble, depending on how we look at it and how much of it we want to see and take note of. The same ocean, when we focus our eyes on a bubble, appears as a bubble to us. And when we expand our vision and look at the ocean, the bubble becomes invisible. We see the ocean. Same way he's saying, Sarva Bhuta Stitam Mam Yaha Bhaktaha Bhajati Ekatvam Astitaha, fully established, having conviction, having full understanding of this unity. Sarvatha Bhartamanopi, even if he may be engaged in different kinds of activities. He may be in a yogic mood or he may be in a Bhuthana Dasa. He may be in a social activity or a religious activity. He may be doing some economic activity. Nevertheless, Sa yogi mai vartate, he shall remain a yogi. What is he assuring? That even in a Bhuthana Dasa, even in a state where you are not in Yoga Dasa, phenomenally speaking, you are not sitting and meditating. That is the fundamental challenge of all spiritual practice. That anyone says, okay, we had a little discussion like that towards the end of yesterday's class, right? So what happens? We listen to this Vedanta and everything. What happens to our mind? After this class, you have a phone call and then your attention is pulled to other things. Bhagavan is reassuring that you are fully convinced and established in me. You may make 1,000 phone calls and cook hundreds of recipes and attain a lot of functions, and yet you shall remain a yogi in your constitution, in your conscious, the formation of your mind and who you are, the way you look at yourself. You will continue to remain self-aware of yourself as a yogi, and you shall be established in me. Okay, so that's one assurance, that I am never going to ditch you, like all the gurus and the acharyas and gods and goddesses. When the devotee is desperately praying to the master, desperately praying to his personal deity, what does he ask for? He doesn't ask for house and car or anything. He says, oh mother, can you guarantee that you shall always be with me? Or a devotee who is crying for Lord, the love of Lord Krishna, what does he say? Can you guarantee me that you shall never drop me from your attention? I always want to be in your eyes, in front of you, and you will have your grace on my head. Bhagavan said, yes, provided you are able to see me as one unified reality which permeates everything. That is the advice he's giving. Okay, etad purva slokartham, the other sloka, which he says that even if he's saying, what was this second half of the sentence, tasyaham na pranashyami sasame na pranashyati, he's saying that's purva slokartham samyak darsam anudya, by translating what he has explained in the old verse, the previous verse, tat phalam mokshaha abhidiyate. In this verse, Bhagavan Krishna is explaining what is the moksha dasa, what is liberation. This is liberation, that you are doing everything and yet at the same time you are established in truth. This is the jivana mukti dasa. Sarvatha means what? Sarva prakarihi, in different ways. Vartamanaha api, so you are present in this universe or in this on earth in different ways. What does that mean? You'll be present as a son, as a husband, as a brother, as a teacher, as a friend, as a politician. You can just take up any roles and responsibilities. Api samyagadarsi, the one who has attained that balanced vision. He sees the Lord's presence everywhere. and he understands that all these multiples and diverse realities that he takes note of, he sees with his naked eyes, are but all established in what? In that fundamental reality. They are projections, and they are source in that unified fundamental reality called the Atma Vastu, Satchidananda Ghana Ananda Rupa. So Yogi Mai Vaishnave, Vishu Praveshane, Vishnu Sarvavyapi. So he sees that all these yogi samadhyasi sees that Vartamanapi Parame Pade Vartate. Now Parama Pada. So he is established at the feet of the Lord Vishnu. It doesn't mean that he is established at the feet of Vishnu with a name and form. That also is fine from a devotional perspective. But what he's saying is that he is in that ultimate state of consciousness. Vishnu Padam. Vishnu is here, Vishnu Praveshana. So it's all pervading reality. So he sort of is at that pedestal of consciousness where that bhakta, he or she, doesn't see herself or himself as any different from that unified reality, and there is no loneliness, there is no craving, because he, she, herself or himself is no different from that unified reality which he calls by the name Vishnu or Mahakali or whatever. Okay? Yogi Mai Vishnave Parame Pade Vartate. In what form? If you actually can exist in the Paramapada, in the Vishnu Pada, who are you? Nitya Mukta Eva. Then you are constantly liberated. What did he say? When you are generally in Yoga Dasa, you are more united with the Lord. But he says the person who in the Vithana Dasa, when he is active in the physical, material, external world, sees my signature everywhere. And when he is in Yoga Dasa or sitting in meditation, he understands this whole universe, which is externally projected, is in fact has its origin in me, and it gets dissolved into me. If you can see this dialectical relationship between me and this universe, the fundamental unified reality of the Brahman, and all that appears as diverse and multiple, being projected aspect of that unified reality, he shall never be discarded by me, and he can never discard me. Having said that, he is now saying he's nitya mukta eva sa na mukhyam prati kenachit pratibadhyate ityartha. His liberation, there is no more any obstruction for his realizing that final truth of liberation. And it's a blissful state, isn't it? Because he is absolutely not having any more any fears, because he is fully established in the Brahman. Now let's look at how beautifully Madhusudana Saraswati will stretch it a little, will bring in a few new ideas and elaborate upon it. Sarveshu bhuteshu adhishtanataya sthitam sarva anusyuta sanamatram mam ishwaram. You see the beauty. Sarva bhuta sthita. This particular word. The one which exists, which is sthita in sarva bhuta, in all the material realities. In what way he's explaining this, Madhusudana? He's reminding us of the fundamental Vedantic message here. He's saying Sarveshu Bhutesu, all the material realities. Does it mean that Bhagavan has taken the form of a computer as river and water and this and that? That will become Parinama Vada. If we say that God has become human beings, these are physical transformation of the Brahman. When our body dies or a river dries up, what happens? The God dries up. The whatever God, that manifestation of God dies. And this will be a big stain on that Brahman. This will make Brahma very bikala, isn't it? That is a Baikalya dosha. There's an insufficiency there. And that cannot be there in Brahman. Therefore, in what way it's present everywhere? Adhishtanataya is the substratum. It is that substratum on which these things are projected. Like those of you have seen a hologram. I was thinking to buy one. It's available in the US. Other places I don't know. It's like a cylinder, or it could be a rectangular form with glass interfaces all around, and there are some projections there. And if you shift it, it's like if you hold it like this, you can see whatever you have programmed into it. You can see the face of a woman or a man, which appears as a three-dimensional reality. But then you flip it like this, just turn it 90 degrees, you see it's transparent, there's nothing, there's vacuum. And then if you again switch it again, you see that. Okay? So what is there in between? How can you see a three-dimensional picture when actually there's nothing? That is the beauty of what is Maya. Some people are using the hologram to explain. Okay. Now, what this thing says is that fundamental reality on which everything is projected, that is not visible to the naked eyes. That's only available for knowledge through Nirudha Samadhi or through Tattva Darshana, either through the analytical method or through the yogic method or a combination of both. Bhuteshu adhishtanataya sthitam sarva anusyuta sanamatram. San means satrupa. It is, that isness, sanamatram. It is not having any name and form, any material form or anything. It is sat matra. The sat becomes na because there is a ma or anunashik after this. Sanamatram, mam, that is me. I am the sanmatra padartha. Sat, the pot is, and book is, computer is, tree is, river is, that isness is there everywhere. That is sarva anusyuta mam ishwaram. I am the maya upadhi, prapta ishwara. Tat pada lakhyam. So you have tattvamasi, tat is represented by, and ishwara is represented by that aspect of tat. Tvam is jiva is represented by tvam. Tattvamasi is jiva, ishwara is one. At what level? Not physically, not emotionally, but as sanmatra padartha at the level of consciousness. Tat pada lakhyam swena tvam pada lakhyena. How can you reach there? Will I say that there is God and this is Jiva and you both are one? No, Vedanta doesn't say this. By meditating on your own consciousness, you start thinking about the Tvam Padartha, who am I? And you do analysis. And when you do a lot of analysis, slowly it will become evident because you will drop all the names and forms and you will find there's a moment where the Tat, whatever you are thinking about as Tat and whatever you have read about as Tvam, or whatever you see as Tvam and whatever you have read about as Tat, they are part of one unified reality. So Lakshya is where you want to reach, right? That is the Lakshya Padartha. And Lakshana is Tattvamasi, Bhagatyaga Lakshana. So you drop the Jiva, the material, the emotional, all these aspects of it you drop. What remains? That Sanmatra Padartha, the Tvam Padartha. And then you see that as a continuous reality, which also is represented by the Tat Padartha, the Atmastu, the Brahman. Swena, Tvam Padar Lakhyena, Saha, Ekatvam, Atyanta Bhedam Astita, Atyanta Abhedam Astita. And there is no Bheda between this Tam Padartha and Tattva Padartha. If he is having that conviction and understanding, he has full conviction and he believes in it, he's established in that truth, then what happens? Ghatakaso Mahakaso iti atra eva upadi bheda nirakaranena. So how would you achieve that unity? He's saying, so you have a ghatakasa, a pot sky. You have a pot in your hand, the space inside it is pot space. And then you have the cosmic space. The whole galaxies, everything including the pots, the cosmic space. This pot space is no different from the cosmic space. When through analysis you realize it, it is upadi bheda nirakarena. That means you'll ignore the potness. In the word you have cosmic space. You remove the word cosmic and the pot. Then what remains? Only space. Nischinvan. So when you have Nischinvan, having certified that, having ascertained that through analysis, Yo Bhajati, the one who does meditation on me, okay, Aham Brahmasmi iti Vedanta Vakya Jena. And how does he pray me? He doesn't pray me, oh Lord, give me a house and a car. He bhajati, he does that bhajana. In what way? He says, Aham Brahmasmi, oh Lord, I'm not different from you. We are just separated by words and a faulty understanding at my end. So we are just one. Sakhyatkarena aparokshi karoti. then he has the direct realization of it. Sakshatkarena. He's face to face with that divine, either through Tattva Darsana or through the Nirudha Samadhi or a combination of both. So, avidya tat karya nivritya. Then we have been reading that word avidya tat karya nivriti. What is avidya? Ignorance. What is this karya? When you're ignorant, you confuse the rope as snake. What is the karya of avidya? The perception of something which is not a snake is the avidya tat karya. The output of avidya in us is what? A faulty way of living, a misled kind of a life and an understanding. That is the Karya Rupa. All the wrong things we do are the Karya Rupa of that ignorance. So avidya tat Karya nivritya. So the snake goes, that is the Karya, faulty understanding. The faulty understanding goes born out of ignorance. Then what we become? We see the rope, we see the truth. So what we become? We become Jivana Muktaha. Kritakritya eva bhavati. Whatever was supposed to be done has been done. There is nothing to be done. That is kritakritya. Whatever is kritya, what is supposed to be done, has been done. Kritya, krita. So it's kritakritya. Eva bhavati. So he has no more any craving because he has already got seven. That ajnana nibriti has happened. So now this craving and anger and aversion and attraction, these things will not happen because the root of all these faulty perceptions and the motor activities that is induced in us is a result of a faulty understanding. If that faulty understanding goes, then the intensity with which we run after this and that in life will completely become non-existent in our consciousness. Yabatu tasya vadhita anubritya. Now what happens is that you studied a lot of physics and you realize that the sky is not blue. It has no color as such. Does it refuse to appear as blue? No. Similarly, as a student of physics, you know that this spectrum you studied in light, it's white and the seven colors are there. And during the rainbow, it appears when there is rain and it gets, this whole thing, refraction takes and the spectra and you see the seven colors. Now, just because you are a good physicist, don't you feel a little happiness looking at a rainbow? Don't you shout, Mama, come and see, there's a beautiful rainbow? Okay, you'll still do it. You'll do it whether it's your wife or husband. Come on, have a look. How beautiful is the rainbow? You will feel very elated. So, this yavatu tasya vadhita anubritya. So, vadhita anubritya is what? You are not exclaiming anymore looking at the rainbow. You know why the rainbow happens out of habit because it appears to be so beautiful. You smile. You don't jump around. That is badhita anubhritti. That happens. The sky appears as blue. The mirage appears as a lake in a desert or on a highway. But it's badhita anubhritti. You know these things are there. It's like you had a friend and you were terribly attached to that person. And then you found out that this guy's intention isn't very good, or this lady's intention isn't very good. But he's a childhood friend or whatever. So you know this fellow has this weakness. Then you meet him or her in a party and you're talking warmly. Badhita anubhritya. You shall not be cheated by that person again. The truth has dawned on you, but you'll continue to have a good, warm interaction without exposing yourself to be trapped by that person. Same way, the jnani allows himself or herself to interact with the social environment around him, with people, and does everything. However, badhita anubhritya, there is a kind of vaccination which has taken place. He doesn't get infected by attachment or aversion to anything because he has removed ignorance, the seed of a faulty response system. He has removed. The virus is removed. That virus is ignorance. He has removed it. And therefore, he appears to engage in the world, with the universe, with people. However, badhita anubhritya. It's a kind of tempered way. It's a very moderated way because this is moderated because of self-knowledge. Sariradi darsanam anuvartate. So, he continues to see the human beings and gods and goddesses and people and animals and everything. He continues to see them. Tavat prarabdha karma prabalyat. Then Till that point, because of some prarabdha, we have understood it. What is prarabdha karma? Is the load of work which has been granted to you as the load of benefits of some bad or some good during this lifetime. That is prarabdha. Sanchita is the hard disk which contains the impressions of what we have done over millions and millions and millions of births. And Kriyamana or Agami is what we are doing now, the karmas, which will give us results later on. The very strong activities may give results now. This prarabdha karma, you have to, it's like an arrow which has been shot. So it will continue till the force with which it has been shot exhausts itself. So this prarabdha karma in us we cannot get rid of it. It's going to show results. But the wise is not affected by it because he doesn't recognize it anymore. But another fellow will say, yeah, this fellow has some physical problems. He gets very angry and he has some anger problem. And the doctor has said he does a lot of philosophical studies, but he continues to get angry. People will talk about it. But you know why it is happening. You know this is a prarabdha. You're fully aware of these apparent shortcomings. And inside, when you sit in meditation, everything vanishes. And you know that you are beyond all that. But then it's quite possible, right? It's got because of prarabdha. Pravalya sarvakarma tyagena va jagyavalkyadivat. So how does we become Jivana Mukta? There are two techniques. Either he'll be like Jagyavalkya. What Jagyavalkya had done, one fine morning he woke up from sleep and walked up to, he had two wives. One is Katyayani, worldly wise, very, very nice, wise woman. The other one is a little off the track, philosophically oriented. She is the great Maitreyi. This is not a traditional wife. She's more of a philosopher. And she challenges him, where are you going, my dear? He says, I'm going to the cave, to the jungle. But why? No, I'm going to meditate. I'm in search of Amritatva. And so what do we get? You are abandoning us? No, you have these hundreds of acres of land, this ashram, these young boys who are my sishyas. You raise them as your children. You're wise enough to teach them. And then you have these 1,000 cows. So you have enough milk and butter and ghee and cheese and everything. And Maitreyi is too sharp. He says, okay, will these cows, these agricultural fields, these sishyas give me Amritatva? He says, no, of course, you shall not get Amritatva. Then tell us about it. Then Jagyavalkya has a dialogue who says, the husband loves the husband because she loves herself. The mother loves the son because she loves herself. And the husband loves his wife because he loves himself. Why? To be able to love anyone, you have to be there. And to be there, you have to love yourself. So what is dearest to you? It's you, that Atma Vastu. And therefore, that is what you should understand what it is. You should meditate on that Atma. That is how he mentions it goes. So there is one is Sarvakarma Parityaga. The Sarvakarma Tyagana Jagyavalkyadi Vad. There are other people like Bamadeva. He just declared to his mother, Mama, I was born here to exist my prarabdha. I'm a Jivanamukta. I have nothing to do. He just walked off. He was born, said goodbye to Mama, went to the forest. These are stories in the myths. And then Vihitena Karmanava Janakadivat. Then you have King Janaka, and he was called Videha, and is a beautiful thing as to why he's called, and his daughter is Vaidehi, because he himself was a person anyways who was beyond his physical consciousness. He had a lot of dialogues with Jagyavalkya, which is narrated. And he had a dialogue with also, the great Astavakra. He had a dialogue with Dattatreya and all. So this Janaka was a great person, was a Jivana Mukta. He was doing everything, but he was always liberated. So either way, you can become Janakadivat by doing Vihita Karma, Nishkama Karma, only for Loka Sangraha. He has no interest. He's liberated, but he's just doing it for others. Like a mother acts as if she is playing with her little son. She does a lot of funny noises. A lot of other people might think, what is this lady doing? Because they don't know she's playing with her son. So the neighbor thinks, what has happened? And then the other person in the neighborhood will laugh and says, don't you know she has a kid now? So she plays with her son, but she doesn't become a kid. She doesn't value anything which is of interest to the little son. But she's entertaining him. Same way, this Jivana Mukta entertains everyone, but he doesn't get related, connected, or trapped by anything that he engages with. Pratasiddhana karmana ba dattatreyadivat. Then there are a lot of people who are not traditional monks. They are kind of, self-illuminated personalities like Dattatreya. He didn't follow any rules and regulations because he was a combination of Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara as per the myths. He was born to Atri, the great Anusaya, where I think she was doing some worship to have sons like Brahma, Vishnu, and Maheshwara. And Lakshmi and Saraswati and all were very jealous of her, and then said, "Okay, you guys go and check whether she deserves to have you as sons, and because she wants to have you as her children." Then these people go and they demand that she should give them fiksha, but without wearing any clothes. And she was too sharp, and with her spiritual power, she turned them into little babies and started breastfeeding them. That is her fiksha. And these people are gone. And then when her husband came, he asked, "Who are these little kids?" He said, "These three sannyasis had come and they wanted diksha but demanded that I shouldn't be wearing any clothes. So I turned them into my babies." And Atri laughed and he said, "Okay, let me make them just one child." And then he had 6 hands and 3 heads, combination of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. Mythological, symbolic representation. And then what happens is that finally they are sort of blessed Anusaya, and they go and then they combine their spiritual blessing to give birth to a son called Dattatreya through Anusaya, who had 2 other brothers called Durvasha, and I think the other one was Durvasa, and then Dattatreya, the other one was Chandra, moon. So Brahma was represented by moon, and Durvasa by Lord Shiva. These are mythological things, and Dattatreya largely by Lord Vishnu. And so he's very popular in Maharashtra. Any of you have been there, you'll see that they worship Dattatreya, or they call him Datta. And there is a Dattatreya Jayanti. Now, this Dattatreya had 24 gurus. He didn't follow any rules and regulations. And nobody taught him anything. He found out everything. And there are great texts attributed to him. So, Pratisiddha, because he didn't follow any rules, like, he would have a dog with him. The Brahmins will not touch dogs. If you touch a dog, you actually take a bath in a very traditional. So he was not bound by this traditional code of conduct. So because he's liberated, he's Jivana Mukta, maybe Prasiddhata, what is actually not prescribed by Shastras, he may do it. Even then, he's liberated. Sarvata yena kenapi rupena vartamanopi, even though he may be in any sequence or consequence in life, any eventuality. Vyavaharan api, he might behave in any fashion. Sa yogi, Brahma aham asmiti. Brahma aham asmiti. He is all the time meditating. Vidwan mai, that Vidwan, that self-realized wise person, the self-realized soul, mai paramatmani eva abhidena vartate. He always exists me, not as a devotee of mine, but as verily me, abhidena. He is not different from me because he is ever established in that pure, infinite experience. Experience of truth, or you call it that unified reality. Sarvatha tasya moksham prati nasti pratibandha sanka. And for him, for liberation, there is no obstruction. There is no veil of ignorance which is preventing him from witnessing his real nature all the time. And then what happens? Tasya ha na devasya sanabhutya isate atma hi esam sa bhavati. So there is this statement which is taken from Chandogya Upanishad. He's saying that such a devotee, such an aspirant, such a sadhaka or a practitioner of the secret of Vedanta, do you know who he is? Even the gods and angels try to dissuade him, obstruct his path. When they go to do that, they become his Atma, they become his soul. Why? He's a great Vedanti. These gods and goddesses try to appear before him to obstruct his path. But he has already mentioned, Tasyaham na pranasyami sachame na pranasyati. The gods and goddesses, whosoever goes to him, he doesn't see them as different from him. And he doesn't see them as himself as different from them. Now, how can one harm himself? So they become him.
so they cannot harm him. Look at the beauty of this whole thing. It's like he's so, just imagine that you want to hit a guy or you want to fight with a guy, but he has such a charming nature that when you go to that lady or a person, that person, and you want to pick up a quarrel, that person is talking to you in such sweet language and voice. You are disarmed. You cannot do anything. You lose the battle. Similarly, anyone who tries to harm that person, because he is an embodiment of love himself. What is the form of that love? That love is an expression of an attitude, a consciousness, which recognizes only one unified reality. And this realization of one infinite reality, pervading everything and everyone, creates an open, all embracing attitude, which can best be described by the word love. That kind of a lover he is. He's not a lover who sings and dances, but he's very vision. The way he has his attitude, wherever he goes, it's said that a good sannyasi, for example, you'll find them, you'll be sitting and monkeys come and play with him and birds sit on him. Why? They're not scared of him. They see love in him. They get attracted. And he's sometimes not paying attention. Like some children playing with dogs, the children beat the dog doesn't mind. Why? The dog understands this baby doesn't understand what is violence. The baby is playing with me, and you can see a lot of these YouTube videos. That is the best proof of this Vedantic secret. That sort of love, that sort of attitude of equanimity becomes an expression of supreme love, supreme universal love. So he's saying, Deva Mahaprabhava api, even though the gods are very, very powerful, tasya moksha abhavanaya, in order to prevent him from getting liberation. Now isate, they cannot succeed. They don't win over him. Kimuta anye chudra ityartha. Even gods in Vedanta, in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, it's mentioned that like a guy has a few goats, okay? He's doing some horticultural activities and he has doing some animal husbandry activities. So he raises some cattle and you steal one of them. What happens? He can't go to sleep. He's very disturbed. What happened to that beautiful goat that I had? Somebody has stolen it. Did the tiger attack? Was there a cheetah or a leopard or a bear? I mean, what attacked it? Where did it go? He's disturbed. Same way, these gods and goddesses do not want to lose even one devotee of them. This is a beautiful metaphoric way of presenting it. And therefore, if you want to study Vedanta, because ultimately you lose interest in these gods and goddesses, and you shall be more inclined towards a meditative unity, meditative, not interconnectivity. Connectivity goes, it's unity. It's a deeper embrace than any physical embrace, where you and Lord become one. You and God both become the embrace. It's not that you are embracing divinity, you are embracing the feet of Lord Krishna, you are embracing or touching or kissing the feet of Divine Mother. No, you and Divine Mother become expression of one love, and that love is realization of that supreme truth. How beautiful is that? If you just look at it. It's not easy to grasp it, but when you meditate on it, it gives you a deep peace with it. That's what he's saying. What can the Chudra Kama Krodha do? If gods and goddesses even lose the battle with this kind of a bright soul, other people cannot do much. Okay? Kimuta Chudra ityartha Brahma vido nisiddha karmani pravartakayo raga dvesayor asambhavena. A person who is self-realized, he cannot harm anyone. Because he is what? Vidheyatma. That is Bhagavad Gita says. Whatever is vidhi, that naturally emanates from him. He cannot indulge in any stupid thing. He becomes a vidheyatma. So raga dveshayor of asambhavena. Raga dvesa, attachment and aversion. These are impossibilities in case of a truly liberated soul. Nisiddha karma asambhavepi. He cannot do any nisiddha karma, like harming someone, cheating somebody, trapping somebody. Let's not talk about the modern day hypnotists and gurus and stuff like that. We are talking about Vedantins who are not necessarily very popular. They cannot be, because Vedanta is not everyone's cup of tea. Tad angikritya. Just to put that into the discussion, jnanastu Jnana stutyartham idam uktam sarvatha vartamanopi. So, in order to praise, actually, he can never do nisiddha karma. But in order to do stuti, in order to praise the benefits of Atma Jnana, this is added sarvatha vartamanopi. This yogi shall never go to, let's imagine, a dance bar to watch these young girls dance to some film songs and stuff like that, which happens in Bombay and many places. Now, he's not going to go there, but in order to praise this glorious benefit of self-awareness, self-knowledge, this is addressed sarvatha vartamanopi. Api iti hatva api na iman lokat na hanti na nisatyate iti vat. So it's also mentioned that this Atmagyan, even if he kills somebody, he doesn't have Brahmatya dosha. It's mentioned, right? So a lot of people say, so you're saying that even the Atmagyan sometime might kill another sannyasi? Are you saying that he can't do any papa? Yeah, and I have heard. I was listening to someone, and I was just asking him, what happens that if no, okay, even if he has relationship with a lot of women, what's the problem? Haven't you read Bhagavad Gita? Even if you kill a human being, you have no papa. He's liberated. These kind of misinterpretations sometimes can be used to hide certain human proclivities which are very perverse. The Bhagavad Gita is doing stuti of the jnana phala. Therefore, it's pulling it towards an extreme interpretation in order to say that even if you go there, nothing happens to you. That is the point. That is the point being made. It's not that you can actually do that and you shall not be touched. That is a completely misinterpretation. Then let's slowly, he's now introducing us to the next verse, and we will do a bit of reading. We have a few more minutes. Evam utpannopi tattvabodhe. And when this kind of a tattvabodha is emerging in you, कश्चिन मनोनाश वासना क्षयोर अभावात् जीवन मुक्ति सुखम न अनुभवति चित्त विक्षेपण च दुष्ट दुःखम अनुभवति स उपरमो yogi dehapate kaivalya bhagitvat. Because in the next sloka, he's going to say, let me first read out that sloka. Atma upamanyena sarvatra samam pasyati yorjuna sukham va yadiva dukham sa yogi paramo mataha. Atma upamanyena. Atma upamanyena. Upamanyena. Like upama and upamyena. In the third case, he's saying, the one who sees everything as comparable to himself. Atma here is self. Atma upamyena sarvatra samam pasyati. The one who sees everything as one and the same. Yo Arjuna. Yaha, the one who is able to see everything, is to see everyone as same as himself. Why? Because he's a samadarshan. Sukham va yadiva dukkham. And then whether it's happiness in case of another. So he finds someone else is very happy. He doesn't become jealous. He's also happy. He finds somebody is very sad. He also feels very sad. Why? Because he's a samadarshi. He will become compassionate when he finds somebody in pain, and he's elated when he finds a baby laughing, a person is very happy. He doesn't experience jealousy, avarice, or any of these problems that a common mind will have. That person is a parama yogi. Why is he mentioning this here? He is now elaborating what he said just in the previous verse that we completed. Sarvatha vartamanopi sa yogi mai vartate. Wherever he is always established in me. And therefore, in the next verse, he's saying, Atmopamyena sarvatra samam pasyati yorjuna sukham va yadiva dukham sa yogi paramo mataha. So let's quickly, we have 4-5 minutes, let's quickly finish our some part of these Shankaracharya. Atma upamyena, Atma swayam eva upamiyate anaya iti upama tasya upamaya bhava upamyam. So upamaya bhava upamyam, that quality, that dharma, that comparability, that is what is opamya. And opamyena, and he's saying where, for example, you do some inference of what is upamana, sadrishya jnana, right? So you look at a cow and you say that this particular nilgai, gavaya, you are going in the Agra area and you see these nilgais and you see, look at them, and then you say that this nilgai is like my cow, the cow I have at home. It looks like that. This is sadrishya jnana. You look at a man in a party and you say, he looks like my brother. You look at a lady and you say, she looks like my aunt, whatever. This is sadrishya jnana. And then opamyena, in that way of comparing that sadrishya jnana, with that kind of sadrishya jnana, he looks at everyone. Okay? Atma upamyena atma swayam eva upamiyate anaya iti upama tasya upamaya bhava upamyam. Tena atma opamyena sarvatra sarvabhutesu samam tulyam pasiti yah Arjuna. The one who comparing himself atma sadrishyatena, by putting himself as a referent, he looks at everything as non-different from him, is same. Yo yogi sarvatra, and sarvatra means in all the bhutas, sarva bhutesu samam tulyam, he sees everything is same. How that works actually? He cannot be another woman, he can't be a child, he can't be an old person. How that happens? He recognizes that secret, that sarva anishyutataya, what is present, that brahmaikatvam, that atma vastu, that supreme consciousness. He sees his signature everywhere is adhishthanataya. It is, there is the foundation of everything. He doesn't identify himself with a lady or a person, as a man, as a transgender. No, he doesn't do any of these. He knows that the consciousness which defines, which gives his presence any meaning, that consciousness is same as the consciousness of all these diverse people. And see, he is able to, or she is able to see that similarity as sadrishyata, or oneness between that adhisthana of everything is one. So it sort of boils down to that. Sacha kim samam pasyati iti uchyate. And how does he say, what compares him with what? Yatha mama sukham ishtam tatha sarva pranam sukham anukulam. He says, whatever I like, the way I like something, others will also like that. So will he like to create a condition when others cannot get what he loves to get? No, he shall not get that. This sloka mentions a beautiful way to explain that he doesn't need any external laws and regulations to be a vidheyatma, because by nature he's like this. Va sabda charthe. So in front of cha means also. That is why that va sabda is mentioned here. Yadiva dukkham sukham, yadiva dukkham. And yadiva yatcha dukkham mama pratikulam anishtam yatha tatha sarva parinam dukkham anishtam pratikulam iti evam atma opamyena sukha dukhe anukula pratikule tulyataya sarva bhutesu samam pasyati na kaschiti pratikulam acharati ahinsaka ityasthaha. That is the summary of it. So whenever there is something painful, he sees to himself, he realizes that this is going to give pain to everyone. He shall not do it and inflict it on others. If he doesn't or she doesn't like humiliation or a cruel joke, he shall never make it towards anyone. He shall never try to create a humor at the cost of anyone. Why? Because it hurts him or her. And this sadhaka jivan mukta shall not do it. Ahinsaka, he is somebody who has become completely non-violent. So the root of non-violence here is a Vedantic realization that all of us are just one thing. And what hurts me shall definitely hurt you. You cannot like it. Of course, our food habits and other things can be different, but when it comes to pleasure and pain, all of us, we have similar experiences. And I cannot deny you something which I like. I shouldn't. And saying that it's not meant for you. And I cannot force something on you which I don't like, because it's also going to hurt you. Ahinsaka ityartha. Ya evam ahinsakaha. The person who is non-violent like this, samyak darsanishtaha, and he samyak darsana nishta, all the time established in a balanced vision, sa yogi paramaha. He is parama in what sense? Utkrishtaha mataha ahikritaha, and he is known as the supreme yogi, sarva yoginan madhye. So he is the best guy among all the yogis, and there is a long commentary on this in the Madhusudani, the Madhusudana Tika, and we shall expand on it tomorrow. And we can take up a couple of questions if you have, or we'll do the Santi Mantras. I'm going to switch up the YouTube live right now.